welcome to this news hour on Equinoxe television, broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babylon Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast, the issues concerning the Parent Teachers Association PTA fees continue raising concerns. Problems in different regions of the Republic of Cameroon. Complaints have continued rising to the sky as parents are worried about the fact that the PTA fees have been raised to exorbitant figures in some of the government schools across the country. A few days to back to school, to the start of the 2020-2021 academic year. 18-year-old Elune, who was injured by a bullet during a confrontation between security and defense forces and non-state armed groups in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, has left hospital and she's recovering. Now, in news out of Cameroon, 4 civilians have been killed and dozens others taken hostage in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The 18-year-old young girl who was injured in a confrontation between security and defense forces of the Republic of Cameroon and non-state and grouped fighters in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon has recovered from the injuries she sustained in that incident. She has left the hospital and she was caught in the crossfire, and this is what has been happening in several parts of the two English-speaking regions of the Republic of Cameroon for close to 5 years, where the population are often caught up in the crossfire between security and defense forces and non-state armed groups. Smanjik and Gabriel has more.
On August 20, 2021, the military descended to Mfoya in Bafut, northwest region, after being hinted about a certain hideout where kidnapped persons are kept. A confrontation led to the killing of 5 alleged separatist fighters, while an 18-year-old girl by name Elune was wounded. She was immediately rushed to the military hospital where a surgery was done on her. After more than 2 weeks at the military hospital, Elune is back on her feet. She says her presence at the shooting scene in Foya was because she wanted to collect her school fees from her boyfriend.
I knew one person, his name was Phil. He told me he was a Cameroon driver. So the day I went there, I found out that he was lying. And I wanted to leave. He asked me not to go because he had promised me to pay my school fees. So when my friend told me that, I wanted him to give the money for my school fees. When I saw him with the gun, I wanted to leave, but he told me not to go. They held me back. I'm a lower sister.
According to Elune, since her father decided not to pay their school fees and mother not doing any lucrative business, she was forced to date someone to provide for her needs. The chief medical officer at the military hospital talked about her situation when she was brought in.
She was wounded by artisanal weapons in Bafut during military operation. So when she came here, she received a treatment in operating room, as daily with dressing. Every day we make good dressing. So the evaluation is correct. The wound is healing. The military hospital treat all people without any discrimination.
Elune, who dropped out from school in lower seat, desires to go back to school this academic year.
And His Royal Highness Chief Bajong Bihai III of Mokong Babongo in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, President of the Cameroon Royal Council in the United States of America, reassures his compatriots that efforts have been made to restore peace and normalcy back home in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and he was speaking during the visit of the Cameroonian ambassador to the United States of America, Henry A. Somba, and it was the ambassador's first visit to his people in the community in the United States of Mwakong Palace, and the ambassador came out ever in 5 years to meet with the community in the United States, Mwakong Palace. He arrived there and was received by a college of chiefs from all over Cameroon resident in the United States. He had a brief meeting with the chiefs inside the Mwakong Palace. He was then led to the general public at the Mwakong Palace, courtesy by a traditional ruler, a traditional dance. He was then installed alongside the chiefs in the royal sittings, and the chief Bajong behind the third president of the Cameroon Royal Council in the United States was honored by the Cameroonian ambassador to the United States of America for efforts made to conserve and protect the culture of the people of the northwest and southwest regions and the rest of the Republic of Cameroon. An ambassador, in ambassador's speech, he highlighted this issue, and this is the first time he has been out since he got here in the United States 5 years ago, and then the Anglophone crisis stepped in, and he didn't know who is who in the community anymore, but thankfully he met with the people and notably highlighted issues concerning the situation back home, and he fought to solve the crisis. And of course he met with the leaders of the Cameroon Royal Council in the United States of America. And now back home, we're going to talk some issues concerning the educational sector in the Republic of Cameroon. And I told you in the headlines that controversies surrounding the Parent Teachers Association PTA fees is raising concerns in different regions of the Republic of Cameroon, where parents are complaining that the PTA fees has been increased to exorbitant figures. For me, and from Standard Reports.
Parents of kids in public secondary schools across the West region are furious that they are being demanded to pay more to get their kids registered for the 2021-2022 academic year. They say new levies have been introduced and added to an unbearably increased PTA levy.
Today, we are asked to pay 30,500. whereas we paid less than 30,000 francs last year.
Last year we paid 26,000 francs CFA, and this year the fees has been raised to 30,500 francs. Curiously, prices keep rising against a falling purchasing power of Cameroonians. Most frustrating, according to the parent, is the fact that the increase could not be justified by school officials.
Times are hard. They should have informed us.
Augustine Chamande, civil society actor, says the increased PTA levy was done in total violation of the rights of parents. He continued that only a General Assembly of Parents has the legality to fix a PTA fee.
On a eu comme l'impression que les instructions sont tombées d'en haut.
Blames for the increased PTA fee the West Regional Delegate of Secondary Education, Francois Gabnia, says he only implemented instructions received from hierarchy. The minister ordered that the special levies be used for the benefit of kids. She also observed that students don't want to clean up toilets, which are sources of infections in schools. She then asked that professionals be hired and paid for that purpose.
Ce qui gêne ici, c'est que on ne voit que des intérêts matériels.
Despite the anger of some parents, others on their part have gone ahead to comply with the new modalities ahead of the new school year.
For me, Armstrong Sander reporting there now to the Mongo division in the littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon, where farmers cultivating cocoa and coffee in that part of the country have been forced to abandon the activity due to a drop in prices of the cash crops. According to them, the lack of incentives has further worsened their already deplorable living conditions. Immaculate Fogui has more.
Cameroon's cocoa and coffee farmers are being thrust into poverty as the prices of cocoa and coffee drop significantly. Before, these cash crops were major contributors of the country's socio-economic development for decades, and it employed over 1 million Cameroonians on farms and in processing plants. But in recent years, the survival of the cash crops have been threatened. Added to it, the livelihoods of the farmers have dropped. A case in point is the Mongo division in the littoral region.
La situation du verger de café dans le département du Mongo est déplorable.
The situation of coffee and cocoa farmers in the Mongo division is deplorable. 20 years ago, many of us were able to feed our children and equally send them to school with the money gotten from the sales of the products. Today, it's not the case. The farmers equally blame their miserable conditions on what they qualify as the ineffectiveness of those managing the Chamber of Agriculture. You cannot spend 13 years heading the Chamber of Agriculture without you going to the field to check how farmers are doing. It is a necessity. To revamp this sector, farmers are expecting support from the government, both financially and technically. They equally hope that a fixed price for these cash crops is implemented.
L'Union de la Presse francophone, or better still, the Union of the French-speaking press, is laying the groundwork for a fruitful collaboration with the press or the media in the Republic of Cameroon. Today, officials of that organization of journalists, of French-speaking journalists, met with officials of Equinoxe television and radio, and of course La Nouvelle Expression newspaper here in the head office of Equinoxe television in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. And in the discussions with the managing director or the CEO and of course other officials of Equinoxe radio and television and La Nouvelle Expression were issues concerning the media landscape in the Republic of Cameroon, and also questions concerning the regulatory authority or the regulation of the media or the practice of journalism in the Republic of Cameroon. And of course the managing director of Equinoxe radio and television discussed with the officials of l'Union de la Presse francophone, and Severin Chunke indicated to the officials of the organization that much has to be done to cleanse the media landscape, to get the media landscape rid of quacks and persons who are doing some illegal practices in the name of journalism in the profession. Now take a listen to the Cameroon branch president of l'Union de la Presse francophone, Elune in this extract.
We came here to talk with the president of the commission on the official press card, the one that is delivered by the commission is presiding at, because that one is not a card prepared and given to journalists by an association like us. It is a card that is meant for all journalists which are exercising in Cameroon, and that one should be the key element that will help us to clean the profession and to know exactly who is is a journalist, who is not a journalist, because all starts from that. People are complaining of the fact that there is too much disorder in our profession, that the journalists are not professional, that they are not respecting ethics and deontology, but most of the time it is not easy to demonstrate that somebody is a journalist, because everybody can just get up in the morning and say, oh yes, I have nothing to do today, or okay, I'm selling my goods, it's not working, let me be a journalist, let me become a journalist. So he has reassured us on the fact that he is working seriously.
Was Elune Sumba, president of the Union of Spain-speaking press, the French-speaking press, speaking the Cameroon branch. Now in news, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, 4 civilians have been killed and dozens taken hostage in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The Congolese government said this happened yesterday when suspected militants ambushed a convoy and set fire to the vehicles. Congo's Ministry of Communication said the army has freed more than 50 of the hostages in Ituri province, and operations are underway to recover the remaining captives from Allied Democratic Forces, a Ugandan militant group, and the ministry did not say how many people were still held hostage. A local lawmaker said earlier that about 80 people were believed to be missing after the attack on a convoy of about 100 vehicles. It was traveling from a military protection on the road between Beni and Butembo cities. Attacks by the armed groups operating in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo's borderland with Rwanda and Uganda have continued unabated despite the government's imposition of martial law in Ituri and North Kivu province at the beginning of May this year. Talking Point is up next. Joining us from Maryland in the United States of America, Chief Bajong Bihai III of Mokong Village, Babungo, Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. He is the president of the Cameroon Royal Council in the United States of America. You're welcome, His Royal Highness.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babia Jonathan. I really appreciate you having me on the program, and you are welcome as well.
Earlier you were reassuring your compatriots, fellow Cameroonians in the United States during a meeting with the U.S. ambassador that efforts are being made to restore peace and normalcy back home in the northwest and in the southwest regions of the country precisely. Can you tell us more about that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila. I really appreciate you putting an effort. I can say the really way to peace is you, the journalist. I think that your particular your particular TV station, the Equinoxe, has been doing a lot of good job to try to see that we have peace, so we can peacefully live in our region, Northwest and the Southwest. I hear, like the president of Cameroon Royal Council, the entire royalty, or that's all the Cameroon royalty living here in the United States, they have been worried, so worried about the whole thing. And they didn't feel good that the traditional rulers, the chiefs, the kings, have been almost chased out of their palaces, some of the palaces burnt and things like that. So they've been figuring out how can they help, because this situation can be solved. The traditional rulers, they can be the mediators. They can do things that can help solve the problem, instead of us waiting for the Swiss or foreign mediation that don't know nothing about our culture. We want to live together. We really want the entire Cameroon to enjoy the heaven of peace that he has always enjoyed. But at this point, the traditional rulers in the Northwest and Southwest, they have a big role to play. Because I remember when the Germans came, who did they meet? Who signed the documents? The Douala chiefs. And when the Germans went all the way to the Northwest, where did they start from? From Balignonga, and from Balignonga, they went to Bafut, from Bafut to Com, from Com to Babungu, and then Banso. And I believe that they were not making mistakes to go to all these kingdoms. They knew that the kingdoms, they have the power. So at this point, Cameroon Royal Council is pleading to the population, pleading to sons and daughters of the Northwest regions to meet their chiefs, their kings, their traditional rulers, and let them mediate instead of them being chased away from their palaces where the power actually belongs. It's better for them to call on them, tell all the chiefs, all the traditional rulers, all the kings, let them come back to their palaces. And when they're in their palaces, they can sit down and talk with them. They can decide to put all the Anglophone leaders on the right, put all the Cameroon government on the left, and then sit down with them and be in the middle and broker the peace. And we will have peace because all of us want to live together. How can we even live apart? It's not even possible for us to live apart because we have already been used to living like one family. I remember when we went to Yaoundé University so many years back, we were so excited to meet our friends and brothers and sisters, the Francophones. And it was very nice. We were living like one, sharing, acting, being one. So today it cannot be different. Today it can be fixed. I think that the traditional rulers, they need to go back to their palaces, sit right there and bring the government, put the government on the right, put the Anglophone leaders on the left, and let us talk. Dialogue is what is needed now, and that is why, led by the ambassador here, we planted a peace plant here. This peace plant was planted by all the traditional rulers that have been living here in the United States under the banner of Cameroon Royal Council.
You are highlighting the importance and significance of peace, respect, law and order, fellowship and communal living within the Cameroonian community. But this is seriously threatened by the happenings in those two regions, the Northwest and Southwest regions, killings and other atrocities that are going on there, destruction. As we're speaking now, some of those things are still happening and even worsening in those two regions. What will you tell those who are involved in these acts on both sides?
Thank you, Mr. Babila. I just don't know how to thank you. I lack words to thank you for giving me this opportunity to air to my brothers and sisters, to my mothers, my fathers, my sons, my daughters of the Northwest and Southwest region. We cannot keep burning and destroying our own selves. We are actually giving an advantage to the same people that we think we are fighting. Ask me why. Right now, if you look very well, most Anglophones, wealthy Anglophones, they carry their money, their resources. They are now in either in Douala, Yaoundé, Baboussam, or all the English, French-speaking zone, investing there, building big schools, building big hospitals, building big churches, even the food houses. I quite remember that Kanatume was initiated in the food house in there by the Banso in Douala. So they now are actually transferring the wealth and development of Northwest and Southwest elsewhere, wherever we can be having it. So I'm begging here. I'm kneeling on my knee. I'm kneeling down. Begging on the gods of Northwest, gods of Southwest, gods of Cameroon to come into the hearts of our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our mothers, our sons and daughters, so that they can come together and dialogue and bring peace and bring peace so we can be able to have peace. Why? Because we are still going to be the losers. If you look very well, most of our little beautiful girls, they're gone. They run away. In the Northwest and Southwest now, those are our young boys growing. They might not even have beautiful girls to marry because they have disappeared, run away from the war, and they are now in Douala or Yaoundé. What's going to happen to us? So I'm thinking that at this point, I'm begging that instead of us waiting on the Swiss, the Northwest chiefs and the Southwest chiefs and the Northwest funds can come together, put the government on one side, put the government...
All right, and that was, of course, Chief Bajong Bihai III of Mokong village in Babungo in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. He is the president of the Cameroon Royal Council in the United States, and the council has been struggling to put a hand on the deck to ensure that peace and normalcy returns in the two English-speaking regions of the country, but also struggling to preserve the cultures of the people out there in the United States. Thanks so much, His Royal Highness, for joining us today. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe Television, coming up live from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé.